Good morning. Name's Albert Oldcrow. I'm an alcoholic. Hadn't been physically drunk since January 18 of 1986, and grateful for that. Appreciate y'all having me here this morning. Still a little tired. Been in Oklahoma doing some film work. That Killers of the Flower Moon got okay to do some extras work on that, and everybody's all excited and happy and saying, "Oh, you're gonna have a good time." And I've done extras work before, and so the first day had a call time of like 6 a.m. And so get out there, and there's like 80 people, extras. We get to the set. Say, "Okay, all of you over here go on to the set." There was 8 of us over here on the side. We sat all day in the trailer. It was air conditioned. Get to near the end of the day, and people on the set came out, and some of the camera people said, "Oh, tomorrow, you sure we're gonna do this other scene, and you'll sure get some camera time?" Yeah. Tell me what I want to hear. So we go back next morning, 7:30, and instead of 80 people extras, there was like 40 to 45. They come in and said, "Okay, we're going to do a little rehearsal. Everybody over here come out for rehearsal." The same 8 people. And I was one of the 8 people and so I drive, here to Bartlesville, Pawhuska area, 5 hours to sit in a trailer for a long time. Patience and tolerance, that's our code. What was neat about it is the very first morning showed up early, and it was a young lady. She had just went through the line and got some breakfast, and we were talking. In a matter of less than 3 minutes, we found out that we were both friends of Bill W. It was neat how that happened. And I owe it to you, people like you that helped make that possible. I was born and raised in western Oklahoma, large family, what I call large, 10 of us. Pecking order, I'm next to the last. My younger brothers are twins. There was 5 years difference between me and my older brother, and so I take that as I was unexpected, because everybody else in the pecking order, there's 2 years difference. And so when I came along, I take it as a surprise, and that didn't last very long, because younger brothers came along and they were twins, and so that just kind of pushed me into the corner. Older brother, this is my take on it. Older brother got all the clean clothes. I got the hand-me-downs. The twins, they got matching new clothes. And so that's just how it was. Pretty much I felt like I had to fend for myself, because it was like older brother I'm bad on color coordinating. I mean, I need those Granimal signs. Where you match them up. Okay, this will go together. Because pretty much all that what I came to be was just put on something. And so I would, and sometimes even today, people look at me like, "Who dressed you?" I did. I witnessed a parent getting drunk at a very early age, but it was not and every day happening. 2 days out of the year, once in the summer, once in the winter, usually around Christmas time. That's why Christmas time sucks to me. But even though it was just 2 days a year, that messed up the other 360 some days. Because if the old man was late for supper, it was quiet. Deadly quiet. But then when we would hear the pickup pull up, everybody get all happy. But if it didn't pull up, we became walking zombies, waiting for the terror to hit. The house we grew up in, the AC was wind blowing through the windows. I don't know how I stood that, but we just didn't know any better. No indoor plumbing. And what was strange about that is when I went to school and they had indoor plumbing, I didn't come home and question why we don't have bathrooms on the inside. It's like, that's just how it is. And so I got to witness my dad chase my mom around the station wagon, because we lived down the country, and when we seen his pickup lights pull down the road, well, we would all pile into the station wagon. Then Mom and Dad would meet. They would get out, argue. He'd pull out a rifle. Older sisters would wrestle it away from him. I was small, so I couldn't do anything about it. Take off across the wheat field, the sister with the rifle would, and then Mom and Dad would separate. We would drive, we'd find the sister, pick her up, then we'd drive around, and I think it's where I get my sense of humor. Even when there is crap all over me, I can still find something humorous to laugh about. And that's what would happen in that station wagon as we're rolling around, driving around. Somebody would say something funny, and it would be a nervous laugh, a very nervous laugh, but we were laughing, by gosh. And so we would drive back by the house, and the lights were still on. Couldn't go back to the house. And when the lights would finally go off, we'd pull in, everybody go in, go sleep, wake up the next morning, have breakfast, and it's like nothing happened. Nobody mentioned, hey, Dad, how come you pulled that rifle on Mom last night? Nothing was said. And so that helped form my communication skills, which practically, no, I didn't talk for 4.5 years. The neighbor lady thought I was special. Well, found out I am special because I'm an alcoholic. But they took me to a specialist in Oklahoma City and did some tests on me, and the specialist says, nothing wrong with him. He can talk, he just don't have to. Because what I would do, and I had older sisters. Oh, do you want this? Oh, do you want this? They wouldn't have to talk. And so they were given instructions that they were not to hand me anything until I verbally asked. And of course, my enunciation skills were not that great. And so when I would say something, what sounded, it didn't come out. The sound, the enunciation wasn't right. And they would laugh at me. And because they always wanted me to say cigarette lighter. For whatever reason, everybody, oh, come here. We're going to get him to say cigarette lighter. I couldn't figure out why. And I would say it. But anyway, when I was younger, guys, witnessed that. My dad doing that with the alcohol. I swear I'd never drink, and you know how that story goes. As soon as alcohol splashed on me, very first time I did, blacked out. I was told that I was 14 years old, wasn't old enough to drive a vehicle, a car. Older brother, 5 years older, he'd been 19, he had a fake ID. I had worked, found me a job, which was very rare in a small town, because my town, there were 16 in my graduating class. Small. And I had found a job pumping gas. $3 a day. That was a lot of money. That was probably, 1968? 69. And got paid every week. And I was proud of myself because I had not cashed like a month's worth of checks. And I showed it to older brother. He wasn't working. His eyes got big. He says, come with us. We're going to go to Elk City. That's where the happening was. There's Sonic, got to drive around and all of that. He says, oh, you might want to cash one of those checks. Okay. Get there, drive around a little bit, pull up the liquor store, and goes, okay, we're going to get something to drink. So we need some money. He looked right at me. Gave him, I didn't know what to give, so I gave him a 20. And I watched. He goes in, gets the deal, comes back out. This humongous, it's fifth. But to me, it looked huge. And he didn't give me my change back. And I was the only one that put in money. There was a carload of guys, older guys. They were 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Anyway, I got my money's worth. I made up my mind I was going to get my money's worth. And so I did, blacked out. I do remember talking to girls, because before then I was shy. And got in a hit and run. They tried to sober me up, put me in a shower with clothes on, walked me, and they gave up on doing that, and everybody in town was afraid of my mom. That was back when child abuse was legal. Because if she seen other kids that was our friends messing up, well, they got it too. And so they're like, what are we going to do? She's going to whip our, you know what? And so they pretty much just get me to the door and throw me inside. And that's when I came to long enough to see my mom come in. And the look on her face, the look of disgust. So I tried to gloss it over and said, hey, Mom, what's going on? And before I could get out what's going on, she just slapped the crap out of me and then walked out of the room. I woke up the next morning in my own puke. I'm surprised I didn't die because of being in my own puke. And the first thought was, those other guys in that car must have woke up the same way. But I remember talking to the females at Sonic, and it's like, well, it's okay. Price to pay. It's okay. And so I started drinking. After that, sports was first and foremost. If it wasn't for sports, I wouldn't have graduated junior high. I wouldn't have graduated high school. Wouldn't have went on to college, because I'd have been. My idea of an alcoholic there at home was the old men and old women that they were They were not clean. They drank Mennen Skin Bracer, Solox paint thinner. That's an alcoholic. Those that drank the Solox paint thinner, you could see them because they drink too much and it blow an eyeball out. You ever see a cow with a pink eye? How it gets kind of white? That's what happens to their eyeballs. And so I thought, if I ever get that bad, I'll go get help. Oh, my goodness. Whenever you mentioned that a while ago about you heard 20-minute, that was when my daughter, Alyssa, asked me, will you give a daughter-friendly version of your story? Oh, bless her heart. She and my son never seen me. They were not old enough to remember me drinking. Sobered up in 86, so Alyssa was 6 years old. And thank goodness that was able to introduce them to AA at a very young age, because they would go with me to meetings. Of course, they would go into the kids' room, and just because that happened didn't keep them from drinking. But at least they knew that there was a place to go for a solution. And right now, as far as I know, they're both sober. That is a lot of blessings. I mean, a lot of prayers being heard and a lot of blessings been received because of that. Back to me, sobered up in 86. Well, back in 77, I got into some trouble. The district attorney's wife from back home, she's a school teacher, and she came down. She graduated from Edmond, where I was going to school, and she says, if you don't hang around in those kind of places, you won't get in that kind of trouble. That was in 77. As smart, as an intelligent person that I am, those words did not come back to me until January of 86. Because I had gotten in a fight, got the crap beat out of me. My nose is split right here, is laid open on the side. And the guys at the bar were saying, hell, man, you need to go to the ER. And I said, give me some whiskey. I just poured on there, I'm good. And I said, no, man, I'm serious, because that's going to be, that you need to go to the ER. And so they finally convinced me to go to the ER and get in there, and juiced up, drunk, and they finally got me in on the table, and the doctor came at me with this long needle, and I said, what are you going to do with that? He goes, I'm going to give you a local so I can stitch you up. I said, tough guys don't do locals. Okay. Put a couple of sutures on me, and I think because I remember my skin coming up about, when he tightened them up, he didn't want them to come loose. He pulled my skin out, and I'm like, I'll take that local now. And he says, by the time it hits, I'll be through. You just have to tough it out. So I did. Got a 12-pack for the drive to the home, the place where I was staying. It was a married woman, but her husband wasn't there. He had killed himself. Ran a vacuum hose into his vehicle, and that is when I was drinking that. I popped open a beer. Was driving, and it's when that school teacher's words came back to me, because I was being all pitiful. Yeah, the only reason why I did that because I'm Indian. And it's like, no, if you just if you hadn't gone in those kind of places, you won't get in that kind of trouble. Tossed the beer out, but I still had 12 more in the back seat. Use them in case of emergency. And that was my last drink. And I finally made it to my first AA meeting, and that was due to my friend being intervened on. She got put in rehab, and I went, that was in '86 when rehabs were pretty powerful. I think 28 days, I think she spent, I think her insurance company was charged like 50 or 60,000 bucks. And came time for family week. Counselors found out I drank a little bit. They knew that it wasn't a good mix. If she was going to stay sober and if I didn't have any treatment, well, then we'd probably drink again. And so came time for her to pull her chair up in front of me, and it was not what I was expecting, because it was a huge room, a little bit bigger than this, and there was like 60 people in there. She pulls her chair up in front of me, and she says, "I love you, but I need you to leave now." Okay. Started walking out of the room and started crying. One of the counselors followed me out into the hallway, and he says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I don't want to drink. Do you have insurance?" If I knew now what I knew then, we'd have been rolling around in the hallway. That's not good. Anyway, he says, "Well," I said, "No, I'm not. I don't have insurance. I don't have a job." And he says, "Well, let me tell you a secret. These guys in here, people in here that are clients, we're going to tell them to go to AA. You just bypass the rehab and go straight to AA." I did, and gave me the address to the Western Club there in Oklahoma City. This was 2:30 in the afternoon. The next meeting was 5:30 that evening. People, empty parking lot. Didn't have anywhere else to go. And about 30 minutes before the meeting was to start, people started showing up. Different types of vehicles. Some brand new cars, some Indian cars. Indian cars use duct tape and baler wire to keep them together. I could tell there's many different professions there. And went in, had a doorway, and I sat right by the door because I hadn't seen any Indians walk in. I thought, okay, there's maybe 25 guys in there. One of me, might be about even. That ego was rampant. And that immediately caused Alberts Anonymous to be formed. Alberts Anonymous is, you go to meetings, no sponsor, talk crap. I watched people, other people that came in that were new, and people would, what I call, corner them up. "Have you read the big book?" "Oh no, you need to read the big book." And so that was what Alberts Anonymous did. I read the first 164 pages so that whenever I was asked, I could honestly say yes. But that deal with no sponsor, oh my goodness, 4.5 years. And I didn't drink. I was crazy. Nobody asked me to sponsor them. I finally got honest with myself and another human being. And I said, look, I haven't done the steps. I'm hurting. I was crying. And old Jim H2, he says, well, you'll be all right. Stick around. I'm chairing the 8 o'clock meeting. This was before the 6 o'clock meeting that we had this conversation. I sat through the 6 o'clock meeting, hung around for the 8 o'clock, and about 20 minutes before 9 o'clock, he calls on me. And I came unglued. Said, I need help. I need help. God definitely has a sense of humor, because there was this little short guy Yankee from up north, I think he's Minnesota, and he came up to me after the meeting. I know how you Indians are. You like to drink, you like to fight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fixing to knock your head off. But I was in so much pain, and just the fact that nobody else had came up to me and said anything after the meeting, after I had gotten honest. He says, I had a run-in with the Indian guy, and I hit him over the head with a pipe wrench. I never knew if he recovered, if he died. I never got to make amends to him. But I'm going to make amends to him through you. And so he did. That was on a Friday night. And he says, you put 20 minutes of you, pen and paper together. 20 minutes, that's it. He says, you know what to write down. It's a matter of writing it down. And he says, if you get that paper and pen and it's still blank after 20 minutes, just write on there, Lion S.O.B. Well, the Friday night, once I started writing, I couldn't quit. It's like I got diarrhea. Just kept coming. And I had witnessed some of you that did your 4-step, take it to your sponsor, and the sponsor look at it, wad it up. That's no damn 4-step. Because they were ready to do their 5th step. And I remembered this. Even though this was in 86, even though they had copiers at 7-Eleven, and I had several pages, I rewrote every page. So that if that sponsor says this ain't, my thought was, okay, you do that. I'll just go get another sponsor. And then I'll just show them that and do that until it works. But that's not the way it happened. I didn't have the nerve to, and I finished writing late Saturday night. And early Sunday morning, called up Norm. I said, hey, I need to talk. He goes, yeah, come on by. I'm got that rug doctor thing. He was renting it and doing carpets. And so I get over there and he's shampooing the carpet and all that you do, emptying the tray, and his rug rats are running around. And I get to talking and crying a little bit. And, oh, you want to do a fifth step? Yeah. I expected him to turn the machine off. He just kept on. He goes, hey, come on, I got to have this back by noon. So I had a choice. Either do it like that or not do it. I went on ahead, and I was having to practically scream over the sound of the machine. And then we get to the portion of the activity where he does stop. And he says, are you finished? And I said, yes. And he said, well, most drunks usually hold back one thing that's a big thing to them. He said, so let me share with you what I did as a teenager to get alcohol. After he told me what he did with another guy to get alcohol, my stuff was minute. That's when I gave him the nickname of Pervert Norm. And when we finished, he said, when I finished, and he says, okay, you through? I said, yes. And he says, oh, come here, give me a hug. And I'm like, nope. He goes, well, okay, we'll shake it. Nope. I know where that hand's been too. No, not doing that. And bottom line is that I finished that initial fifth step. And he says, what you will need to do is, over here in Grand Prairie, they have a men's step study team. You need to get on that step study team. He says, because everybody that I have witnessed go through that has stayed sober. Yeah, but. I was doing the yeah, but thing. But I just did the fifth step. We've gone through the steps. He says, you still need to do this. I did. And I ended up doing, I think, 9 more step study team completion, 16 weeks, continuous weeks. What usually happens is first 3 weeks is great because step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 4, guess what? The very first one, there were 16 of us. It went to 8. The 5th week, it went to 4. And I got concerned, and I said, Norm, what if I'm the only one there? What will I do? And he says, if that happens, you will come by and pick me up. We'll go over, and you will complete this. Okay. But those 4 guys were still sober. What a blessing. And so out of all that, got involved in service work. I volunteered to be GSR. Somebody looked at me like, are you crazy? Nobody volunteers for GSR stuff. But I wanted to learn more about the fellowship of AA. And I did learn, and it was more about learning about myself, because that was back when smoking was still allowed in the rooms, and came time for my GSR report, get up behind the lectern, and practically everybody would leave the room to go smoke, and there was people leaving the room that didn't even smoke. And I was pissed because I'm giving one night a week for district meeting. We also did combined 5, which is monthly. Then we did the quarterly for the NETA. That's a lot of time. And I was told that, hey, You're doing this because you volunteered. Whether they want to hear you report or not, it's because you made the time to do what you said you would do. And that's what you all have taught me, to do what I say I'm going to do. Because I would tell you anything if I knew you was going to get me a drink. I'd listen to your bullshit. Because I knew, hey, I'll tolerate you. Give me my stuff. And so today I'm very busy. I thought about retiring, but then my pickup broke down, or the transmission was acting up. I'll put it like that. It didn't break down on the side of the road, but I knew it was short-lived, and so I went and got a new vehicle, and I was surprised at my credit score. So now I have to postpone my retirement for a few years till I get in a position to knock that final payment down, and by that time I won't be old enough to drive. So just deal with the process of life. It's a good thing. My dad, he did drink himself to death. The woman he was with, even though he was in the hospital, said he needed a kidney. His kidneys were shut down. Needed a kidney, and I said, even though I was drinking, I said, I'll donate a kidney. But his companion, would sneak his vodka into him. Some more about my background, my education background, driver education. Driver education, they taught us about blood alcohol content. Your weight, how much you had to drink, your blood alcohol content will be this much. And so, in my mind, as drunks, always looking for loopholes. In my mind, it was a deal of, if I ever get stopped and I'm drinking, had been drinking, I'll be able to explain to the police officer exactly what my blood alcohol content is, and he'll be so impressed that he'll just say, okay, let me follow you home, you'll be all right. It didn't work out like that. Second DUI I received, same thing. The third time, this was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Got this bright idea that I was going to have an epileptic seizure. That didn't work out well either. Because the state trooper, here we are, he's at his desk, computer screen, and I'm over here in the chair, and I decided it's time. I'm going to have my seizure. I'm flopping around on the floor. I finally get tired of flopping on the floor, and I stop, and he says, "Are you through?" You talk about a long distance from the floor back up to that chair. Did that make me quit drinking? No. See, it took all of that alcohol, all of that humiliation, all of that to reach that point of saying this alcohol is not working. And what I do today is, when at all possible, we don't pay attention to race, color, or creed. But because of social media, social platform, anytime I see where some of my people express a desire to get sober, I do what I can to make that happen. We've got a clinic here in the DFW area, and I've had dealings with them, and so far, I had a nephew, been able to send through that, get him through treatment. Another individual who won't talk to me right now because I called him out on his crap. I've been around the block long enough to know that whenever you go into rehab, they kind of put you in isolation for a period of time. Well, he just kept on sending me texts and phone calls, and I'm like, hey man, you said you had 2 phones. Did you turn both phones in? Oh, they don't need to know about this one. So that might not be a good idea. So you need to start learning how to follow some guidelines. Well, after about 3 calls from him, and I said, hey man, if you're not going to be able to get honest, we really don't have anything in common. Even though you're in rehab, you're still full of crap. Well, maybe you need rehab. I said, well, I may, but I'm not in rehab. You're the one in rehab. And so that's been our last conversation. I've seen where he has completed it. Happy for him. And I'm okay with it. Main thing is that he made it through. He's dry today. I don't know that he's what we call sober. He's doing Albert's Anonymous. You all allowed me that. Because I forgot to tell you this, whenever that Albert's Anonymous was going on strong, I moved to Arkansas to try to reconcile with a kid's mom. I wasn't there in Arkadelphia, found a meeting. Oh, it hadn't even attended a meeting. They only met twice a week. And after the first 2 meetings, I had a guy come up and says, hey, when are you going to get a sponsor? And I'm thinking, those damn people in Oklahoma called up here and told on me. But that's just how perceptive we are. And that's one of the things I asked Norm. I said, how'd you get so smart? How do you know pretty much what I'm going to do before I even do it or what I'm thinking? He goes, I just know drunks. And I've been around the block long enough now that individuals ask me the same thing. I said, well, I've done it. I witnessed other people do strange, crazy things even though we're sober. Because I've done so many things sober that I did drunk. It's unreal. Still trying to figure out the marriage thing. I like being married. I just can't stay married. Been married 5 times, twice to the same person. She got half and then got half of the half. When Eddie Murphy says, yeah, I want half. And I'm like, yeah, but, I mean, anyway. And here's where I've grown, is that number 2 and 3, the same person, she contacted me because I insisted on the decree that we not have any contact. And the judge signed it. It's okay, you all don't mix. You don't need to be seeing each other. I mean, no communication. Well, she sent me a deal on social media saying, I had a dream about you. The old me would have jumped right on that. I didn't. She contacted Alyssa. Would you have your dad call me? Here's my number. Alyssa she told me that she had called, and I said, well, thank you. I let it alone. And I'm like, look at you. You're not going back for a third portion. And I'm okay being by myself. I'm okay with that. When volunteer opportunities arise, I don't have to ask, do we have anything planned? Can I do this? I mean, if I want to head to Oklahoma, because it's one of the things I do, is that we have a tribal rehab center in Clinton, Oklahoma, and that's like 4.5 hours away. I go up and do sweat lodge ceremony with the clients. I do what I can, and thank goodness that you all tolerated me enough to where that I felt comfortable enough. I used to say, I've done the steps, you can't kick me out. Well, my home group, showed me otherwise. They kicked somebody out. I was very upset on that. And this is what I told the individuals that voted to kick the person out. Some of you may drink one more drink, and that precise amount may put your brain over the edge to where that all you know is you need to come to an AA meeting. You may do obscene, vulgar stuff, and they may want to kick you out, but I'll be standing up there with you, because we're not supposed to kick anybody out. We're supposed to be all inclusive. Now, if I get out of hand and rowdy, ask me to leave that meeting, yeah, but don't kick me out of the group as a whole. And so that's what's happened. Some of the members have come back to me. Oh yeah, man, I was right there with you. I don't think it was right to kick him out either. And I said, well, you sure didn't stand up and talk. And that's what y'all have taught me, is that I may be the only one standing in my belief, but they're my belief. What I learned from service work is that we don't kick anybody out. We don't call the cops. We handle our own stuff, because we had an ungodly amount of prudent reserves, like $8,000. It was too tempting. The treasurer took off with it.
Oh my God.
Yes. And I wanted to call the cops. Les W. says we don't do that. We take care of our own. And so I had to remember that. Says if they don't pay it back, they won't get sober. And guess what? They didn't pay it back. They didn't get sober. They're still alive, but they're miserable. And so we made a decision as a group to limit the prudent reserve to 2 months as opposed to 6 months. So that way, if they take off, and on that deal, whenever we were recovering from the loss of the money, we were within 24 hours of our electricity being turned off, and we were passing the basket. Didn't get enough money. Passed it again. Didn't get enough money. Passed it again. $100 bill shows up in the basket. I said, okay, we've got enough. I'm doing what I got to do with the money, calling up the treasurer, saying we got the money, and kiss my ass if 3 people came up and says, hey man, that's my 100. Drunk still amaze me. Thank you.